I can't believe that this happened. This is literally insane. This might be the most batshit thing I've seen ever happen in Australian politics. I can't believe it's not getting any traction. Why the fuck aren't people talking about this? This is hilarious and disturbing and indicative of a deeper problem that we have to deal with, which is the increasing radicalization of our citizenry. So, something fucking wild has happened. There was a coup plot that seemed to have been working up into like a full-blown coup attempt that was to involve, from what I've seen, issuing arrest warrants for our Prime Minister and trying to arrest our Prime Minister. Now, how are random citizens going to do this? Well, we'll have a little bit of a look at that here, because there has been some news reporting on this, but not much. Something like this and what it indicates should be part of a big national conversation, but for some reason it's not. It's all kind of been swept under the rug a little bit. So here we have a little bit of reporting from the good old ABC. We love our auntie. They're our national broadcaster and news organisation here in Australia. Perth man arrested over fake AFP Commissioner video calling for government overthrow. A Perth man has been charged as part of an investigation into a video which claimed to show the Australian Federal Police Commissioner calling for the federal government to be overthrown. Key points. The AFP has said that the video was complete and utter nonsense. A Perth man has been charged with impersonating a Commonwealth official, and 3 boxes of replica AFP ID badges were found by the Queensland Police. These people had gotten to the stage where they were manufacturing fake AFP police badges. What the ever-living gosh darn heck? Authorities said their operation started about 2 weeks ago when the video began circulating online, which falsely claimed to show Commissioner Reece Crenshaw calling people to join the AFP in the cause. Acting Assistant Commissioner Andrew Donoghue said the video was complete and utter nonsense with, quote, no truth or credibility. Search warrants were executed in Brisbane, Cairns, Townsville and Perth and in rural South Australia at the weekend. He said investigations were ongoing and a Perth man had been charged with impersonating a Commonwealth public official. We will allege this man claimed to be an AFP official during an unsuccessful attempt to obtain stamps and ID badges bearing the official AFP logo from a commercial business, Acting Assistant Commissioner Donoghue said. Our inquiries in relation to that man are continuing. If found guilty, he faces up to 2 years in jail. He was ordered to appear in the Perth Magistrates Court later this month. That appearance should be interesting, and I hope that there is reporting on it. We will get into the reasons that that is likely to be an interesting appearance soon. Police also recovered 3 boxes of replica AFP badges which had been sent to a home in Cairns. Acting Commissioner Donoghue said that they had been found dumped in a local creek by Queensland Police. He said the investigation was ongoing. There's a considerable amount of material that's still being gone through at this stage, he said. I'm not ruling out the possibility that there will be further action, further search warrants as a result of the information we've been able to gather. Queensland Police Assistant Commissioner Debbie Platts praised the work of officers in executing the warrants. But she said the situation should also remind people of how vulnerable some in the community are. We really should look after out for our families, friends and colleagues, she said. During this lockdown period, especially in southeast Queensland, I urge all of us to come and unite and check on our friends and make sure we're okay. The group met regularly to discuss a coup. Acting Commissioner Dongaho said police had identified the man in the video and found him to be part of a nationwide group. The AFP said that the group met online regularly to discuss their interests in taking over the federal government. Quote, several people had been allegedly appointed as commissioners in the force, he said. They had issued several warrants for a number of high-profile government people and intended to execute those arrest warrants on people. He said the videos were still circulating online, but the police acted early to try and prevent people from acting on them. We're working with the internet service providers to see now if we can have that material removed. I managed to find a copy of the video, which we will be going over in this segment. Acting Commissioner Dongaho said the focus of the police investigation was on criminality, not ideology. Now, we've also got here, so from Sydney Morning Herald, they do have a little bit more information. So the person who was arrested and alleged to be impersonating the the AFP commissioner was a 49-year-old from Towett Hill over in Perth, and he claimed to be, or we don't know if this is the same person who vocally impersonated the commissioner, but apparently this person claimed to be an AFP official during an unsuccessful attempt to obtain stamps and ID badges bearing the official AFP logo from a commercial business. Yes, Argo, this is completely fucking wild. So he's identified, found to be a part of a group of people online. Police searched 6 properties across Brisbane, Cairns and Townville, and also South Australia and Perth. So this group of people is spread across our very large island nation. And now the 3 boxes of badges were 470 counterfeit AFP badges. Whatever they were planning something big that would have involved a lot of people pretending to be Australian Federal Police. So that's that bit of evidence. Or that bit of information there. We also have, so the AFP Assistant Commissioner of Counter-Terrorism, Scott Lee, said it was concerning that a group of people had arranged the manufacture of AFP replica badges and the creation of the false video online. Quoting again, we have found no evidence that this group has the ability or has actually attempted to carry out specific violence acts in support of statements made by members of this group. The general public needs to know that a video purporting to be of the AFP Commissioner calling for people to join in a plan to create a new government is complete and utter nonsense. It is not from the Commissioner, it is not from the AFP, and it has absolutely no credibility. But we do know that people they want to buy into things, they want to believe things. People have become increasingly vulnerable to conspiracy theory, conspiratorial thinking in the times of lockdown. We've seen this, we've gone over this on stream before, and extremist groups are using this as a way to get more people on board with their ideologies. We'll jump in and start having a listen to the video. And that means we will start painting ye old miniature. So first up, we're going to have a very quick listen to what the actual commissioner sounds like, just so we can get an idea of how well this person did their impersonation. So this here is just from the Australian Federal Police Association's Facebook page. This is Commissioner Kershaw doing a statement, an opening statement to the Senate Estimates hearing on legal and the Senate Legal and Constitutional Affairs Legislation Committee.
Thank on the record a strong supporter of this initiative, former AFPA President Angela Smith. And I would like to thank Angela for her leadership of the AFPA, for being such a strong advocate for all AFP officers. And I welcome Alex Carena as interim AFPA President until elections are held in March next year. I look forward to continuing with work with the AFPA President.
Cool. So that just gives you an idea of what he sounds like. And we will jump over to This is the actual video. Now, we may end up speeding this up a little bit, and we will move that so it's on the display capture. There we go, lovely.
Basic things I want to run through. First of all, the phone number that has been put up there, we can't get to every solitary, everyone's phoning that phone number and we just can't get to you guys. Okay, so if you don't mind, I leave comments in the chat.
So he does sound at least a bit similar, but let's speed this up a little bit. And it's playback, speed, faster.
A lot easier. So there's no point calling that phone number anymore because we're just inundated with people, thousands of calls, thousands of...
Oh, that is far too fast. Looks like we're going for regular speed. Or slower, fine. Yeah, let's go it on like 1.3.
We just can't get to you guys. We'd love to, but it's inefficient and it's not working well for what we have here. So if you can refrain from that, no problems. If you've got any questions today after we're done, just put it in the chat room and we'll come to me straight away and I'll try to answer it as quick as we can. We do have a physical meeting today and some training for people,
So we can see already, I've seen it theorized that this might be from some kind of Zoom call. He's talking to people to try and get them organized, encouraging them to get involved in this. And this is while pretending to be the Commissioner for the Australian Police.
Anyone here? Yes. So that's a yes, you can hear. Okay. Right, so I'll just recap on that. Just in case no one heard, the phone number that people are ringing at the moment, guys, there's no point in ringing that because we're inundated with calls on that instead of going to the other channels. So try to refrain from ringing that number if you can and put your message.
So they're organised enough that they've got people calling in, people wanting to be involved.
Just in the chat box, so it's really important. Private message if you can. Right, to me, that's fine. Look, at the end of the day, what we're trying to do is streamline all this because we have thousands of people trying to get in contact with us. And while that's fantastic, we think it's great, we just have to make it a little bit more secure, safe for everyone as well, because obviously with mainstream, we don't want to be talking.
So if they are to be believed, thousands of people interested in Australia in this apparent plot to overthrow the government.
People have mainstream on this, and we want to protect everyone that's involved in this as well as everyone else as well. So if you can, any questions you've got today, put it in the chat room. We'll get to that as quick as we possibly can. We have a limited amount of time today. We have a physical meeting as well for physical training, and that's down the Gold Coast that we have to be down to. So this is probably going to go for about 30, 40 minutes and go from there. Now, obviously today is for people who want to sign on and become federal police officers or getting involved in specialist teams and so.
So that was, he was saying that they had, I'm just jumping back slightly, physical training recently?
And become federal police officers or getting involved in, going to go for about 30, 40 minutes and go from there. Now, obviously today is for people who want to sign on and become federal police officers.
So this is, so he's saying that he's going to basically deputise people into being federal police officers, which of course is not how any of this stuff works.
Or getting involved in specialist teams and so forth. So what we've got to look at is, we talked about already, and we can be very straight up, straight cut, because I think a lot of the people here now have looked at jumping on board to be nothing but police officers and that's it. So, or CPOs or special services officers. So what we're after is knowing how many people are going to put their hand up for the actual, for the task. Look, it's not an easy task, so we're not going to feed anyone any crap or anything. It's going to be a hardcore job, that's it, and it has to be done. So if you're signing on board, and I'll be straight up with anyone that's going to look at signing on board, if you've got any major prize or anything like that, if you're smoking cannabis, all that sort of stuff for a weekend, you might as well get off now, don't even bother, right? So
doesn't want anyone who's got prior convictions, doesn't want anyone who's a drug user.
Because I'm not going to put you in there. That's all there is to it. We have a high standard and it's got to be met, and that's all there is to it. So we don't alter or change that for anyone. We also want people who want to go down the peaceful path if we can, because we want to do the arrest warrants and go that way, because that's the correct and lawful way to do it.
saying that they want to go the peaceful path and issue arrest warrants. It's the correct and lawful way to do it, they say, while impersonating the Commissioner of the Australian Federal Police and trying to bring people in on a plot to apparently arrest the Prime Minister and possibly some other key government officials.
You know, the last resort, as I said,
and
is
take
to put
over the government.
on someone or to put arms on someone. We don't want to do it. Okay? We want to do it lawfully, right, to the book and under the 1979 Police Act. Okay? When you do sign on, we've got the website coming up, which will be hopefully next week all done and dusted.
Now, I'm not a legal scholar, but I'm going to go out on a limb here and guess that the 1979 Police Act doesn't contain provisions for the Australian Federal Police to perform a coup.
And everyone will actually get the entry for that actual...
Or for the Australian Federal Police to, or for the Commissioner to deputise new members of the Australian Federal Police from the citizenry in order to perform said coup.
Website, and then you'll get a sign-in code. You can sign in, and everything will be on there. You have the front section to it and the back section. There's places and people on there where you can go to common law, as well as download the 1979 Police Act.
Okay, here we have our first smoking gun as to who, what kind of people are behind this, what kind of people are pushing this. Now, you'll see that he said that there was a website that they could go to where they could log up, register their interest in being a part of this coup, and that it would have information on common law. Now, there's a particular subset of people from around the globe. There are a bunch of interconnected communities, usually called sovereign citizens. Sovereign citizens basically believe that the law is this weird magical code that they can find ways using language and knowledge of legal history to make certain laws just not apply to them. This is, of course, a pretty fringe idea, and that's not how legal structures work. One of the things that sovereign citizens will regularly talk about or regularly call back to is this idea of common law. Now, it's usually referring to British common law, and the British legal system as it stands today was built off British common law as a foundation, and our legal system was built off British law. And you'll see this being used by sovereign citizens, at least I've seen it in Australia, in the US, and in England. This idea that, ancient common law precepts supersede modern laws. And that's just not how it goes. There's lots of videos you can find online of sovereign citizens trying to argue their way out of police fines. They've got particular language that they'll use, such as talking about, I'm not driving, I'm traveling, you cannot impede me traveling. They'll often try it on in courts and usually kind of get laughed all the way to the jail cell by the magistrate presiding over the proceedings. But there has been an alarming uptick in sovereign citizen stuff in Australia. And we're going to jump back over to this view for a moment, and we're just going to take a quick read of an article from SBS, I believe. Yep, so this is from SBS, the Special Broadcasting Service, from... I think this was from last year. Let's just check and view the original, make sure we've got our timeline right. So this was from, end of last year. The rise of sovereign people and why they argue that laws don't apply to them. As COVID-19 raged on, sovereign people became a common term in 2020. Throughout the year, social media was littered with videos of people breaching COVID-19 restrictions. First, there was Eve Black, a woman who filmed herself laughing as she drove through a police checkpoint. Then there was Bunnings Karen, who said it was her right as a living woman to not wear a face mask. And there's since been countless others who've shared videos berating essential workers and arguing with police. One of the people who early on in the pandemic tried to pull some sovereign citizen stuff and ended up on the news for it was a man named Jared Searby. Regulars of the channel will recognise Jazz Searby. He started off as a Proud Boy and believes in sovereign citizen stuff, and quickly became an Australian neo-Nazi. And he has been teaching common law principles to the Australian fascist community. Now, whether or not the people who were organising this attempted coup are part of the Australian fascist and neo-Nazi communities, we don't know. However, it does appear that they're sovereign citizens. Victoria's Police Chief Commissioner Shane Patton claims officers are seeing an increasing trend of so-called sovereign citizens. He said that they've been encountered at checkpoints baiting police and claiming that they don't have to provide their name and address. On at least 3 or 4 occasions in the past week, we've had to smash the windows of cars and pull them out of there so that they could provide their details, he said in a press conference earlier this month. Prime Minister Scott Morrison also weighed in on the issue, telling sovereign citizens to get real and comply with the country's health guidelines. So, who are sovereign people? What do they believe? Dr. Harry Hobbis is a law lecturer at the University of Technology in Sydney. He said that sovereign citizens often reject the former term, referring to themselves as living people or sovereign people. They think that the government of Australia is illegitimate and all the laws passed by Parliament are illegitimate, Hobbs told The Feed. I have been hanging out in a few different COVID conspiracy Telegram groups, just watching. And I've seen a number of sovereign citizen type people talking in those Telegram groups. Some of them seem to believe that the government of Australia is a corporate entity under the US and is thus an illegitimate entity. It's a bizarre situation. That's because the government is, in their view, a corporation, and they are natural persons or living people. There we are, that corporate entity thing that's coming up again. Sovereign people attempt to opt out of the law by using certain phrases like "I don't consent" and by referring to certain documents like the Magna Carta, according to Hobbs. But there is also no legal basis whatsoever for their claims. The Magna Carta was signed in 1215 between the Dukes and King John. You know, it has nothing to do with laws in Australia today, Hobbs says. If you are a resident in Australia, you must abide by Australian law. There is no way that you can opt out of Australian law by declaring yourself to be a sovereign citizen, he added. No court in Australia, no court in the US, Canada, anywhere I've seen, has ever accepted the legal arguments raised by sovereign citizens. Canadian Jackie Phoenix is a sovereign person and a single mother who helps manage an Australian Facebook group on the topic of lawful descent. She told The Feed she was extremely disillusioned with the Canadian government when she stumbled across a Facebook group discussing sovereign people. Phoenix, who lives in Canada, claims she swore sovereignty more than a year ago under Article 61 of the Magna Carta and now encourages others on Facebook to do the same. But she does not define herself as a sovereign citizen and said that there's a big distinction between sovereign citizens and those who stand under Article 61 of the Magna Carta. Phoenix said she only pays taxes under duress and has not renewed her license as she has an inherent right to travel. There again, we've got that thing, I'm not driving, I'm travelling, I have a right to travel. Brought that up before. When I'm stopped by police, I just grab my video camera and recite the constitutional caution card and let them know that if they ask anything against me, they will be committing a crime, she said. Sovereign citizens love recording themselves doing this stuff and putting it up online. So Sion on Twitch, essentially every first world, so they think every first world government is a sub-branch of the United States government, except they also think that the US government is illegitimate. So it's usually something about the government being a corporation. They often believe things like your birth certificate, because it has your name in all caps, is like a legal shackle. Or an illegal legalese shackle. that is designed to treat you like a corporation, and sovereign citizens seek to reclaim their natural personhood. There's also, especially in the States, a lot of stuff about how, oh, this particular flag that's flying in this court is a maritime flag, which means that this court is actually under maritime law, which is all bullshit. They're usually referring to a flag with tassels on it, and lots of flags have tassels on them. Phoenix believes the Australian government, courts and law enforcement are all corporations, and it's unlawful to pay taxes, fines or fees while under a treasonous regime. She said that when she first started reaching out to Australians, she had a lot of resistance, but the Australian members have grown by leaps and bounds over the last few months. People are scared. People are looking for ways to help them feel like they have control, and that makes them vulnerable to this kind of predation. There are now over 5,000 members in the Australian Facebook group that she helps manage. Quote, "Sovereignty is what gives people the power. We are self-governing. Parliament is treasonously trying to claim sovereignty," she said. Article 61 of the Magna Carta applies to all Commonwealth countries as well as former Commonwealth countries. We all need to work together as a Commonwealth people if we are to stop the treasonous regime. Phoenix told the feed that she also believes birth certificates register humans as corporations, and birth bonds are traded on the stock market. That's why your last name is in all caps letters on your birth certificate, she said. But despite not willingly paying tax, Phoenix claims she's entitled to access government services like public healthcare, transport, education, and other benefits. She said that's because she follows common law, which dictates she has to keep the peace, cause no harm, cause no loss, and commit no fraud. Are sovereign people linked to the far right? Spoiler, some of them are. I don't know if this article will say that, but Jordan McSweeney is an expert in far-right groups and a PhD candidate at the University of Sydney. He said, while in the US the sovereign citizen movement has links to militias, in Australia they are generally non-violent. Although this was a plan to overthrow the Australian government. He told the feed that the sovereign people movement developed out of the anti-Semitic Posse Communitatis, the precursor to the US Patriot movement in the 1970s, though most sovereigns are unaware of its origins. They believed Jews took control of the government through financial institutions, he said. While sovereign citizens aren't a concrete organisation and their beliefs differ, the movement has long roots in the US Patriot movement and often overlaps with far-right conspiracies like Pizzagate and QAnon. One of the most famous sovereign citizens was Oklahoma City bombing conspirator Terry Nichols, who executed an attack on a federal office building that killed 168 people. It was later revealed that Nichols had filed dozens of frivolous lawsuits against the government in the years leading up to the attack. So these people are vulnerable to radicalization, and we have an increasing number of these people in Australia. While in May 2010, a father and son who are believed to have identified as sovereign shot 2 police officers dead when they were pulled over in West Memphis. McSweeney said sovereign people are increasing in number due to the failure of social media networks to crack down on misinformation. Previously, it was pretty difficult to access this stuff, but in the context of COVID, it's circulating and proliferating, he said. There's no legal basis to break the law. Hobbes reiterated that while sovereign citizens often seem confident and resolute in their beliefs, they are not entitled to break the law. If you're working somewhere and someone comes into your office or business and says, "I don't have to put on a mask because I'm a sovereign citizen, I'm a living person, I'm a natural person," be reassured in the knowledge that that's not true. They do need to wear a mask, and so you have the authority to tell them to put on the mask or not let them into your store. So that gives us a little bit of an idea of who the fuck sovereign citizens are. I've also seen reports from like interviews with Australian police bringing up that the number of sovereign citizens had been increasing. One instance of a police officer talking about truckies crossing the New South Wales-Queensland border and having arguments with him as to, whether they had to follow certain legislation around like COVID and getting tests and stuff. So this is like, it's dangerous just because these people are more likely to spread the plague that's around. But these people can also become more dangerous and can become increasingly radicalized. Let's go back to this planning session that we've managed to get our hands on.
Now, on the 1979 Police Act, you have to know sections 2, 3 and 4. That's pursuant to what we train and what we do. And that's got arresting warrant, how to arrest someone, arresting warrants, your job role as a federal officer, my role as a commissioner, and that's all been laid out in there, and that has to be read.
So what's interesting here is that they're looking at, following the way that the 1978, the way that the Police Act works, even though, these are people who don't believe in the sovereignty of law, the sovereignty of the nation and the laws that the nation imposes, but they're building this. All I can call this is a farce. It is a farcical situation, but they commissioned 470 fake AFP badges. They were trying to get official stamps and official-looking stamps and ID so that they could pull this off. This, wasn't just some LARPers. This was people who actually had a plan, and fortunately for everyone, they got caught early on in this plan before they actually tried to pull off what they wanted to do.
There's 238 pages in that booklet, just so you know, so eventually it goes through the whole lot, and that way you're schooled and educated on that, as well as getting schooled and educated on common law. So the website will have all that on there, and that's getting tasked up as we speak. So we're just trying to finalise that and get it absolutely dead right for everyone. Okay, so when it comes down to the policing, each commissioner has to appoint you as a federal officer, which means you have to swear in under God and the Bible. You have a swearing oath, which is to allegiance to Her Majesty the Queen and monarchy, as well as to be dealing with you must be dealing in common law. Okay, as much as we don't look upon the Queen as our advocate here, it doesn't matter. That's still lawful what we have to do, right? So that swearing then brings you into that.
On that note, I do think Australia should become a constitutional republic, and we should do away with our figurehead of the royal family.
You get an appointment card, you get landing with your name on it, and we need a passport photo of yourself, and that puts you into the system, as well as you'll be getting a badge. That badge is not to be used, so everyone understands this. It is not to be used to go, hey, look, I want to get in front of people and get a coffee. That's not what it's for, okay? It is not to.
So it sounds like they were planning on distributing those fake AFP badges to people who they were telling were being deputised as AFP officers.
To be shown, it is not to be used until such time that our operation actually goes in and we effect our arrest warrants on that day. So I want to make that perfectly clear.
Arrest warrants, multiple. So we've seen from reporting that they were planning on arresting the PM, but from that it sounds like there was a number of people within government that they were planning to attempt to arrest. Now, it would have been bizarre and amazing to see how this would actually play out, because, the Prime Minister has bodyguards and an easy and quick link to getting in contact with the actual Australian Federal Police. There is no way that he would have just rolled over, and I wonder whether, if this had have gone ahead, whether they would have resorted to violence to attempt to continue their coup. By the time you're that deep in, I think that violence would tend to be something that you would try and do. I mean, they'd already be doing an intensely illegal act, even if, some of them think that even if they think they are in the right, if some of them were deluded enough to actually believe that.
If you cannot follow.
Ooh, Argo, you've learned how to play at Doom's Gate on your bass. That's really cool. If you want to pop a video of that up on the Discord, I'd love to have a listen.
Orders, don't bother signing on, okay? This is a discipline outfit, and you must follow orders, okay? This Zoom is a little bit different to the other ones where I talk to you. I'm talking to you as, if you want to call.
Okay, so he said there that it was a Zoom call, and this Zoom is a little bit different to the others where I've talked to you. So this person, whoever they were, has been pretending to be Commissioner Kenshaw for a number of these Zoom meetings, and they've been planning this for a while. This isn't some kind of once-off, doesn't sound like it's some once-off, hey, let's put out a hoax video. This is something that they've actually been working on and trying to do.
The person who's your boss and runs you. That's it. You must follow every direction. It's exactly the way the army works. It follows everything in all the narrative that we have. We also have a set standard when we look at the officers that will go and effect the arrest warrants. They have to be fit, healthy, ready to go, no prize, clean cut, which is what we're after. It is a regiment.
So they're looking for people who would fit the mould, who would be able to look like their AFP officers, and people who don't have outstanding arrest warrants or criminal histories prior to this that would have caused them to become flagged.
Just like army is or police force is, you must be a good sergeant. You must have discipline, and you must be able to be trainable. Because it's not only the theory side you have to do, it is also the physical side that you have to do. You have to learn self-defense and everything like that. Because again, our last resort.
So physical training, learning self-defense, and their last resort. What's their last resort, fake Commissioner?
Is to pull any gun or handgun on anyone. We want to do this peaceful. Okay.
Our last resort is to pull any gun or handgun on anyone, which means that they were planning to arm up and have pistols, firearms for this. Now, it is very hard to get, licensing to have guns in Australia. It's not too hard if you're like a farmer and you've got a rifle or two that you use for pest control out of your farm. But even then, there are, strict requirements that have to be met. Your gun needs to be kept in a gun safe. The police have the right to kind of pop around at any time and make sure that you only have the firearms that are registered to you, and that you're not doing anything illegal with them, and that they're properly stored. So God knows where they were planning to get these guns from. Now you can get like licenses for owning a pistol for use in like shooting ranges and stuff, but yeah, very concerning stuff.
We give no chance to the government to say that we're a terrorist organisation and this is a coup. This is not a coup at all. Right? This is not.
This is not a coup. We are just we're just seeking to arrest the democratically elected Prime Minister of Australia and other unnamed members of the government. And what's the next step there? So the reporting that we've looked at said that there was a plan for them to take over the government, which would definitionally be a coup. This doesn't sound like the kind of thing that you're doing if you just want to force a new election. This is an ill-conceived and poorly executed power grab.
We're useful. Okay? So now down to the nitty-gritty. We're not there, right, to harm the government, to blow up the government, to hurt the government, to do nothing to the government in that way, shape or form. As I said, this is not a terrorist act. If you think you're going in there guns blazing and it's going to be all fun and games, it's not. This is not a game. Okay? So I want to put that straight to everyone. It's not a game. You're signing on to something that could be dangerous. Okay? Now, some of you will be armed, may be armed. Some of you may not. That's the way it is. Okay? We have liaison officers that will have the arrest warrants and so forth, and that's their job. They don't need to be armed. 3/4 of the people we're putting in there won't have to be armed.
So 3/4 of the people they're putting in there wouldn't have to be armed. Assuming that they were hoping to use all 470 of those badges, that's still over 100 armed people descending upon Parliament House and trying to arrest the Prime Minister. Assuming it was planned to happen at Parliament. It could have been targeted towards Kirribilli House if the PM was going to be in Sydney. But Canberra is probably your best bet, kind of symbolically, if they were planning to actually go through with this. And it sounds like they were.
So it's pushing those arrest warrants correctly onto these people and doing it by the law. That's the most important part that you have. I have had, with my staff members, we've had correspondence with police officers now that are really looking at what they have to do, and they know it's wrong and it's unlawful what they're being made to do at the moment. So that's great to hear that. So
this is playing into the sovereign citizen and a lot of kind of COVID conspiracy theorists in general belief that things like lockdowns and mask mates are unlawful, which no, they're not. They are lawful. Yes, I know that they feel inconvenient, but these measures are important so that we don't spread a deadly plague amongst our community and wind up with loved ones dead or permanently injured from long COVID. Because we know now that they're also on our side, and some of those are coming to physical meetings today, which is great. Okay, and that's what we're after. We're after our police force to understand it's time for them to stop doing what they're doing and stand up. Okay, so getting all these guys on board with So he's making the claim, I doubt its veracity, but he's making the claim that there are police officers who are on board with this action. Now, that is possible, but, this guy is already lying, pretending to be the Commissioner of the Australian Federal Police. I think we can safely say that he's probably lying about this other stuff. Hopefully our police forces aren't riddled with people who sympathise with sovereign citizens and believe in the kinds of conspiracy theories that COVID denialists tend to believe in, because that overlaps a lot with the ideas of the globalist one world government, which for a lot of people means the Jews are trying to control the world. And I would like to think that we don't have too many actual neo-Nazis in our police force.
Is essential, okay? We're not there to hurt them. They're there to do a job, okay? And unfortunately, they've been taught one way. They have to understand that there's another way they can do, and they have the right under the Act to make their own decision about what they want to do. Half of them are scared to lose their job. Half of them are scared.
I don't know whether the Policing Act gives police officers the right to decide not to enforce the law. I would be surprised. I wouldn't be surprised to find out that the Policing Act, contains guidelines for police quitting their jobs and how they go about that. But cops, to my knowledge, do not have the option as to whether or not they wish to enforce the law.
To come on board, but they also know it's the right thing to do. So they're now starting to come over, which is great. Okay. One of the things I want to say, numerous phone calls from people going, "Oh, you can't do this. This is treason. This is a terrorist act. This is this. This is that." Okay. So where do you get your intel from? Okay. I'll let everyone know right now.
Now, would this constitute treason in Australia if they had have gone through with it? Let's quickly look up the definition of treason again. This is from the Australian Parliament House website. So Chapter 4, treason. So the Security Legislation Amendment Terrorism Act 2002 inserted new Chapter 5, Security of the Commonwealth, into the Criminal Code. The Act modernised the offence of treason and introduced the definition of a terrorist act, definition of a terrorist organisation, so on and so forth. So treason. Under Section 80.1, a person commits treason if he or she causes the death or harm resulting in death or imprisons or restrains the sovereign, the heir apparent of the sovereign, the consort of the sovereign, the Governor-General, or the Prime Minister. So if they were looking to arrest, to detain, to restrain the lawfully elected Prime Minister of Australia, this in fact, by letter of our law, looks like it would have just straight up been a fucking treasonous act. Levies war, does actual preparatory, so on. Now, we don't need to go, that's straight up. We've already hit treason there. We don't need to go through the rest of the definitioning. Now, what constitutes terrorism in Australia? There we are. So, definition of terrorism. Definition of terrorism in Australian law. Terrorism in the Commonwealth law is defined as an act or threat that is intended to advance a political, ideological, or religious cause, and coerce or intimidate an Australian or foreign government or the public or section of the public, including foreign public. The conduct falls within the definition if it causes serious physical harm to a person or serious damage to property, causes death or endangers a person's life. They were planning on heading in there with a quarter of their people armed, so it could very well coming under endangering life. Creates a serious risk to the health and safety of the public, or seriously interferes, disrupts, or destroys an electronic information, telecommunications, or financial system, or an electronic system used for the delivery of essential government services, or used for essential public utility or transport system. So it is an act or threat. Now, it sounds like coerce or intimidate an Australian or foreign government. That would come under this. So not quite as cut and dry, but yes, this does sound like it would have been a terrorist act, as if they would have gone through with it. All right, let us continue.
I am not going to say I'm Zoom, but anyone likes it. I'm not a bullshit artist. I tell people straight up, straight cut what it is. I had people in the background.
Mate, you are literally fucking bullshitting everyone who was in on this Zoom call and pretending to be the Commissioner.
Who give me information that if I gave who they are out, they will be dead within a day. Okay? So my information comes from people who are in the know. And I don't listen to any other narrative. I don't listen to YouTube. I don't listen to mainstream media. I listen to the people who are in the know and exactly who are finding out what's happening. My phone...
So he's setting himself up in the eyes of the audience here as being a uniquely connected expert who cannot be questioned, but also cannot give information on his sources or the nature of his sources, because if he does, they will be found out and killed. So he's setting it's an unfalsifiable position, and there are people out there who will believe this stuff, who don't have the critical reasoning skills to jump, to properly deal with these kinds of ideas in a healthy way.
iPhone itself,
or discard them, I should say.
The original direction which was given to the Army to find location of targets, to enter location of targets with force and jab targets, the designated liquid. Right? That is not something that's secretive. If anyone wants that, I'll send it to them. Okay? I don't have a problem with that. I have the proof of that. Okay? And I have other documents which prove what the secret is.
So just jumping back slightly to what he said.
I'll send it to them. Okay? I don't have a problem with that. iPhone itself, I have the direction the original direction which was given to the Army to find location of targets, to enter location of targets with force and jab targets, the designated liquid. Right? That is...
Jab targets designated liquid. Is that people to liquidize? So he's claiming that the Australian Army is in on this as well. Again, building confidence in his marks, the people he's conning to get involved in this coup.
Not something that's secretive. If anyone wants that, I'll send it to them. Okay? I don't have a problem with that. I have the proof of that. Okay? And I have other documents which prove what the government are doing. I already know that. Okay? So I'm not asking anyone to stand up and do something.
I hope that this goes into some of what they think the government is doing. However, he stated earlier on that this isn't the first Zoom meeting that they've had about this. So this may well be information that they went over prior and won't be covered in this audio.
Something, right? That doesn't have to be done. It has to be done. Okay? But if we do it lawfully, it doesn't have to be violent. Okay? That's our last resort, is that violence. We don't want to do that. We want to go in, no guns blazing, effective arrest warrants, do it lawfully, and that's it. So I want everyone to be in on this, to be directed into that. Now, it's no offence to anyone. If you're 70 years old, I admire your courage to stand up, but I cannot have you on front line, okay, arresting people. But I can have you with other people behind that, backing up those arrests. We need people to stand up. We need crowds to stand up and go behind this and call upon their arrests. And I don't want 1,000 people. I want 22,000 to 50,000 people.
So he wants to get masses of people protesting and calling for the arrest of government officials. Now, we have been seeing increasing unrest amongst the populace around things like lockdown measures. A big part of this is because the federal government has fumbled and dropped the ball really seriously when it comes to giving people the kind of proper financial support that they need to survive through the lockdowns, and whether that's individuals or small businesses. The lack of federal support and the glacial pace at which our federal government has been moving has allowed sentiments that are driving the anti-lockdown protests to kind of grow and swell. And I'd like to say that people wouldn't get on board with this, but I mean, what we've just been watching over the last few weeks with, people having mass protests against the government, many of these people believing that the government is acting unlawfully in, having basic public health and safety measures to curb the spread of a pandemic. So while I don't think he would get the 20 to 50,000 people that he's talking about here, I do think that if they had have gone ahead, they may have actually gotten a sizable protest crowd.
State standing up, ready to go, rallying people up to call upon those arrests. So it's not just one person in an outfit with a badge on it, it's everyone. So that's where we have to understand. Now, as far as signing on...
I think he said there, hang on.
Now, as far as signing on, you will get an appointment card, as I said, in those arrests. So it's not just one person in an outfit.
I think he said that he wants to see this uprising and protests happening all across the country.
With a badge on it, it's everyone. So that's where we have to understand. Now, as far as signing on, you will get an appointment card, as I said. You will get a lanyard with your photo ID and everything on it, and the code number and a barcode on it and everything, as well as your...
So lanyard with a photo ID on it, that's what I think is one of the things that tipped off the cops to this happening. The guy in Perth trying to get those official-looking AFP IDs manufactured, and it sounds like they went to a commercial business to do so. So I am reading between the lines here a bit, but I suspect they went to a commercial printery to try and get them to make Australian Federal Police stamps and ID lanyards, which was a dumb fucking move, because any business worth their salt is going to go, you know what, I don't think that this is legal. I don't want to get in trouble with the fucking Australian Federal Police. I'm just going to report these guys. So, fortunately, these folks don't appear to be too smart.
Official AFP badge. Now, under that, you've got to look at where you sign on, you're now becoming a federal officer.
Yeah, Terrastormer, it is a really, really stupid move.
Right? If you come to work or do your job and you come in with any alcohol, any drugs in your system, I will drug test you. And I guarantee you, you will be taken to the full letter of the law. So you cannot do it. So if you're thinking that way, it's going to be a big job and I can just sit back and do my job and that's it, that's not the case. Okay? Many people have asked, well, is it a full-time job? What do I do? Right. Currently, right now, even serving police officers right now, we've told them keep your job and what you're doing, transfer over afterwards. Right? There will be funding.
Okay, so he's saying anyone who's being deputised, you don't actually have a new job yet, but once we perform the coup and grab power, then you'll be in the new Australian Federal Police.
For this, we've allocated that in the actual operations that we've done, and we see certain accounts, and those accounts then get transferred over to run the AFP. Each individual person coming on board can get up to a 20-year contract. Right, on $100,000 a year. Okay? Now, currently, if you look at AFP and all the other guys, they're lucky to get 68 grand a year. Now, if you look at all police, and we put that to the police, if you want to come over board, you're going to get a lot more salary, you're going to get better benefits, a lot more money to do your policing properly, and more staff members. In all truthfulness, I think they're going to be pretty well on board with that very, very quickly. And that's what I put to some police officers already, and they love it. They're like, I transfer it tomorrow. Okay, when's it starting? That's how their thinking process is. Now, we're in a position right now where...
And of course, we can't know the veracity of his claims of having talked to police officers about this. Any police officer who was in contact with this guy and didn't report him has to be sweating fucking bullets right now because this investigation is ongoing, and given that, like, it was no matter how incompetent these people wound up being, it was still a threat to the governance and sovereignty of Australia, a threat to the Prime Minister. And look, I don't like our Prime Minister. I think he's a fucking goit. But I also think he needs to be voted out with extreme prejudice. I don't think that performing a coup it's not something that you can pull off with a bunch of fucking random people that you found on the internet who are pissed off about COVID restrictions.
I've been sent many things from people and people who are currently serving police force, QPS. And I received a direction from a QPS who's on board with us. And the directive is that they've been told not to enforce the masking and fines of masking, not to enforce.
Yeah, Sion, having the ID badges would have legitimised what they were doing in the eyes of the members. But at the same time, like, they should have done that in-house. They should have gotten the equipment that would have allowed them to do this. The fact that they just walked into an external business and went, hey, we need you to make these up, it does not speak well of their intelligence.
Right, anything like that on people, or enforce people to have to sign in when they go to every different place. It is a directive. It's a directive. It's not mandatory law. Okay?
Of Cool. So here we see core grievances, or at least the grievance that this person was using to mobilize people, is around COVID restrictions. So he's saying that, forcing people to sign in places where they go is against the law. He'd likely have similar things to say about like mask mandates and whatnot, but it's not. We have laws in Australia that allow this stuff to happen. We allow emergencies to be declared. We allow, emergency measures to be put in place. At the moment, if you are in an area with a mask mandate, following that mask mandate is a legal requirement.
So they know they can't enforce it, and they're not going to. A lot of them aren't going to. And they're starting to fight back against the system and say, no, we're not going to do it. Okay? Now, they'll get threatened with their jobs. Okay? And that's where this is becoming hard, because police officers are going, well, I'm out, I'm done. I'm not going to find people for this, I'm not going to find people for that. You cannot abuse your power. Okay? If you abuse your power, you'll be in front of myself and the board within a 5-second barrier, mate. We will have you really quickly. You cannot abuse that power that you have. Okay?
So he's likely putting those stipulations in place and making those threats so that people wouldn't blow the cover on the plan too quickly. Because if they think they're going to get in trouble if they try and go, oh yeah, I'm a member of this new secret AFP organization that's going to take over the country and take the country back from these illegal politicians who are trying to force us to wear masks, then that would be the lid blown off it really quickly. Now, fortunately, they were dumb enough to blow the lid off all on their own from the core organizers. I'd be really interested to know how many people bought into this, how many people were in these Zoom meetings. Like, he's speaking with a lot of confidence. He sounds like he thinks he can pull this off. Now, whether that's delusion or whether there are enough people who bought onto this that, they may have actually been able to take a red hot go at it. We just don't fucking know.
Poor people. Otherwise, we're replacing back what we're trying to get rid of. Okay, so remember that. It is important to remember that. We will keep current serving police officers in place right now and move our new AFP in with the old AFP, and then weed out those that we know that aren't doing the job properly and aren't doing it lawfully, who are corrupt. It doesn't take long to find them out. Okay? The one thing I want to express to you right now is you've only got to look at papers and everything else. The government guys are now turning on each other. Okay? Because they know they can't force people to do anything, and people are getting smart and they're waking up. So we've got medical officers.
So again, this is their sovereign citizens' beliefs coming through. But the police can force you to do things legally. It's within certain sets of requirements, but
and so forth, and are now going, oh yeah, well he did that. LJ, oh the government did this, and now they're starting to turn back and forth on each other, right? So we've got a broken section now. So it just made our job a lot easier. Okay, and it's going to make our job a lot easier. They do not have each other's backs, and if we start arresting some of them, they'll dot on each other, because they have no allegiance to each other. That's what this is. So I want everyone to understand that. Okay? It's not that hard. Right, so...
No, the cops protect their own. If the police are good at one thing, it's closing ranks and keep, protecting each other. If they have attempted this coup, I do not think that Australian police would have defected over to their side.
What we need to do is find out today, if you're here wanting to become a police officer, when the website's up, and you can put that into the chat room, each person who wishes to become an AFP, we need your name, your email, okay, age if we can, and your phone number. Okay? So that way we can return back to the...
That's all you need to become an officer of the new and illegal AFP. Name, email, age, and phone number. And because this guy wasn't actually the police commissioner, he doesn't have the ability to do background checks or anything, or, find out much about these fucking people. He's just, this was, it seems, a ill-conceived attempt at a power grab.
Of course, if we have to really quickly, and we can get our staff members to start filtrating through each person in every state, and also what state you're in. So then we can push you to which commissioner is in that state, and then it can be taken over very quickly. And you'll know where to go for common law, who's running that, and also on the website as well, it will have...
And again, Australia does not run off common law, but this is the beliefs, the faith of the sovereign citizen.
Some training videos on how to arrest and self-defence on there as well. Right? We have a large amount of people that have come on board who do...
I would love to get a look at this website. I would be surprised if it's still up. And doubly surprised if anyone involved would have like shared the links anywhere where that I could find them.
Teach martial arts, do teach self-defence as well, and we can utilise those guys easily in your areas to help out with this. Okay, so it's important that everyone.
So talking about people who train others for mixed martial arts. Now, again, we don't have any direct indication yet that this is linked to fascism or white supremacy, but it is worth noting that a lot of the Australia's neo-Nazi and neo-fascist community leaders run MMA gyms to train up other fascists in combat for what they believe is an inevitable and necessary race war.
Understands that this is the job. It's not a game. Okay? If you're underneath me and you come and do physical train with me, expect me not to be the nice guy in this video that you see. No, I'm not here to that. I'm not here to be liked. I'm here to train and make you efficient for what you do. Okay? So I want everyone to understand that straight up. It's no.
So question from Gur42, if the PM was killed during the coup, would they have to elect a new leader or would it default to the deputy PM? I think temporarily control would go to the deputy PM. The deputy PM would become the acting prime minister, and then it would fall to the Liberal Party to have an election, and under the LNP coalition agreement, the leader of the Liberal Party is the Prime Minister and the leader of the Nationals Party is the Deputy Prime Minister, if they're in power. Now, as to whether it could be a plot to make Dutton PM, I don't know so much about that. I don't think that sovereign citizens would have much love for Dutton. Because Sovcits, which these people do appear to be, like they don't like the existing rule of law. They don't like the way that authority is handled and wielded. And Dutton has very much shown himself to be of authoritarian bent and mind state. Now, Dutton, if the PM did get killed during something like this, Dutton would probably be the most likely contender for being selected, because, you know, this would be a national crisis. People would be very afraid, so they would be looking to select a leader / new prime minister who has a lot of experience, running authoritarian organizations, who's built himself up as the law and order guy. So the resulting power vacuum would create an ideal situation for Dutton to step in, but I'm not in any way suggesting that, Dutton is behind this, or anything like that. And if these people are trying to take control, I don't know if they would want to install someone like Dutton.
No hard feelings towards anyone. It's not that I'm being rude to anyone.
That said, if the ultimate puppet masters behind this were the neo-fascists and the ethno-nationalists, then maybe they would look at Dutton and go, yeah, he's our guy.
I'm just being straight up about what the job is, okay? Once the government officials have been arrested and the government those factions have been dissolved, right, from there, right, there's policing to do after that. We still have to look out for the bad guys. We have to still look out for the robbers and so forth, and all the other policing things. So the QPS and everyone else must come on board with us, and we will bring them with us to do a good job. Your whole role is to do the job effectively, okay, and do it with discipline and do it with dignity and integrity. That's what the job is, okay.
I wonder if the police caught wind of this while these meetings were still happening, or if that only occurred when this video started circulating online a few weeks back.
Police force at the moment, as I've said to people, I don't hate the police force. I never have. I've always taught my children to go to a police officer if you're in trouble and talk to the police officer. He or she will always help you. That's what it's about. I want everyone to start looking upon our police force, which we start to make, to be good people who do a good job and look after them. It has to come back to that. Good old school policing. That's it. Okay, so if you have any questions now, okay, please throw them into the text area, and then I'll try to get them as fast as I can for you.
Cool, so he's taking questions from the audience. This should be interesting. So, Ger, yeah, it is possible that the organisers themselves aren't sovereign citizens, but are trying to tap into the SovCit belief system because there are increasing numbers of them in Australia. But we do know that some key Australian neo-Nazis do hold sovereign citizen beliefs. Jared Searby being one of them, the most public and prominent. And we know from videos we've watched previously on this channel that Jazz Searby has been educating other Australian neo-Nazis as to common law sovereign citizen stuff.
So I'm going to have to read this as we go, guys. Okay, do we have to be an Australian citizen? Yes, you do. You must be an Australian citizen, no priors, okay, of good health and structure, okay? And look, as much as, we've had guys, 70-year-olds, that they're going, I'll stand up, and they're probably going to war. We still have to look after you, okay? We have to have strong enough people to go in, and if something changes and it has to, and they try to get arrested by the other guys because they don't understand what's going on, or there's any form of violence, they have to be able to take care of that very quickly, okay?
So yeah, they want people who are prepared to take violent action, but they're trying to cache this as if it's a low possibility of triggering violence. If they actually tried this, the actual police would step in very quickly and there would be violence.
And be efficient in that. So yes, you do have to be an Australian citizen. Okay, if you're going to training in rural Australia, yes, you can. Right, the training.
So talking about, is there training and can you train in rural Australia?
Videos and so forth will be up on that website, and it will show you because we have people who are doing the common law as well as the 1979 Police Act. So you can get onto the Zoom meetings for that, and you can actually learn about the 1979 Police Act and common law straight up. As well as there will be training videos up on the website as well. That content will hopefully be up there very shortly on basic defence and basic arresting positions and so forth, and how to do that. Remember one thing, you're not going in as a single entity to arrest someone. I'm talking 10 for one, right? With another 20 behind you, okay? There's no chance of getting away from it. So you're going to have backup right behind you, okay? So then don't worry about that too much. It is knowing how to defend yourself if they send their units of GPS in, how to defend yourself. The direction for 1979 Policing Act said force upon force, right? If they're grabbing me and I use force on them to put them down, that's equal force, okay? The minute I pull a handgun out, that's deadly.
Yeah, but that only applies to people who are actually police, and none of these people would have been.
Force, they can return fire. Okay? So we're not about deadly force. We're going to push them back, stop them, tell them to stand down, right? And explain why. Okay? Because half the time when they come in, they're not going to know what we're there for. If we have the arresting warrants and they see the badges, they see GPS guys behind us as well as AFP officers in suits, they will be dumbfounded at what's going on. They think, well, I think we're in the wrong building. Okay?
Cool. So their objective was just to try and confuse the regular police into complying with them.
So we then direct them. It's about directing them correctly under the law. Okay, that's what we have to do. Okay, so hopefully that answers that question.
This is wild. So Sion on Twitch, but SovCit beliefs are only a means for an end for these people, yes, quite possibly. So they're only interested in using people who hold SovCit beliefs in order to impose a far-right dictatorship. So Jared Searby, at least, does seem to genuinely believe in, like, the sovereign citizen common law, regular laws are illegitimate kind of thing. So I think it would be very on a case-by-case basis. Remember, neo-Nazis and fascists are prone to conspiratorial thinking, which means that there will be a certain amount of genuine overlap between these communities. And sovereign citizens are prone to conspiratorial thinking as well, which means that they're more likely to get drawn into actually believing this kind of... Well, sovereign citizens are kind of primed to be moved over further right. So you can quite easily have neo-Nazis and neo-fascists who have come to believe in sovereign citizen stuff and have sovereign citizens who have been radicalized over to fascism and Nazism.
Yeah, that's unfortunately Yeah, you can get that, actually. That's something I can probably put onto the website so people can see that. So you can actually see that Army directive. And that was the original one that got sent to our army. Okay? And
So he's saying that he would put the Army directive up on the website, whatever this website is.
that got...
And we do have, I found a possibility for what the website might be, but again, they can't have been so stupid as to do this completely publicly, right? That said, they've done some really dumb stuff, so I don't know. It's a wild fucking situation, hey.
Accepted by the fictitious person that I don't have on the inside. So, just so everyone knows, okay? I get those directives from this person because I know that person is inside and knows exactly what they're doing before they do it. If they've thought about it, he knows about it, okay, which is really good. So, and as I've said to many people, I'm not going to divulge that person's name because that would be catastrophic for that person, okay, as well as this movement. And I'm sorry if that upsets people, but I'm not about to do that. I'm not going to be able to compromise that person's position, right, or that person's life.
As we said, he's setting himself up in an unfalsifiable position where others can't kind of challenge the validity of his information by saying, I can't divulge my inside person's identity because that will put them under risk.
Okay, so as far as that goes, yes, you can have a copy of that because the basis of this is everything that they try to do, push the vax on you and say, well, we're going to force that vax on you, you don't consent to it. Okay, that's it.
And yeah, this is either about or preying on people's fears around COVID.
Before they go through and they push that narrative, hopefully before then, if everyone gets on board with this and we push this hard, we'll stop that from being in effect. Okay? That means that no, they will not be able to come in and back you because we'll dissolve that and stop that narrative and that direction beforehand. Okay?
Yes.
So that's just...
I see that you know your judo.
Hey! Mr. Nobodies, thank you very much for the raid. Lovely to see you, lovely to have you here. We are going over some abso-fucking-lutely batshit stuff today. There was a foiled coup attempt here in Australia. It seems to have been organised by sovereign citizens or people appealing to sovereign citizens. We're going over audio of someone who is claiming to be the Federal Commission or the Commissioner for the Australian Federal Police. Someone has just been arrested in Perth in relation to this. They found 470 fake AFP badges that were delivered to a house in Queensland that were thrown in a creek to try and dispose of them. And they were attempting to get official looking AFP IDs and stamps made up so that they could go presumably into Canberra and arrest the Prime Minister and other key but currently unnamed politicians. Fortunately, these people seem to have been completely fucking incompetent and did things like trying to use like a regular business to go and commission the manufacture of these fake AFP IDs. And the business was like, hey, police, I don't think this is legal. You might want to look into these guys. But yeah, this seems to have been like a genuine, planned-out attempt to try and perform a coup in Australia. Details are thin on the ground. This video that we're going over now, the authorities are trying to restrict it, trying to get it off as many platforms as possible. I've managed to find and download a copy. It's from a Zoom meeting. From what the pretender in the video has said, this is one of a number of Zoom meetings that have occurred where they've discussed all of the howdy-doody, what-you-ma-do that they've been going over, or that they were planning. It's completely insane.
I think that we have to have time to do this, guys. But it's like anything. I can't go in with a piece of paper by myself. That's why I'm calling upon Australians, right? Men and women, stronger than me, let's go. We need you guys to stand up. We need you to sign on and no mucking around. Put the boxing gloves on and get ready to go. Okay? Get ready to train. Be ready to do your duty. Right? Not only as a Australian Federal Police officer, but as a citizen under our Australian laws here. We have to stand up. Right? Now, if we leave it, it's not going to be good for anyone. It is going to change the whole of Australia once they start pushing these narratives. We've only got to look back down last year. We will never have ARs on the street. Okay? Military automatic weapons on the street. They're on the street. We will never force the vaccine on anyone.
I have not seen much in the way of either cops or military carrying ARs around on the street. Here in Sydney, the military have been deployed, but they're not armed. So it's one military officer accompanying a police officer to do like door checks and stuff, which is a dumb move for a number of reasons. Not in the least because it plays right into the conspiracy theorists' hands about there being some kind of New World Order takeover of our government and our country. But yeah. Now, if they wanted to bring the military in, they should have brought the military in to do like food aid and things. You know, going around to houses with food hampers and stuff, and like dropping off supplies and boxes of masks at people's abodes. That would have been the way to deploy the military to help, ease tensions and reduce the spread of COVID. But nope, our government isn't that bright, unfortunately.
Is now forced to actually have it.
Brighter than these schmucks, though.
You will never have to have the vaccine. It's your body, your choice, Scott Morrison, right? But you have to have it to get on a plane. Okay, so time's done, mate. It's time to stand. Okay, this is what this meeting is. The other meetings are a little bit more low-key. This is straight up, straight cut in your face. These guys are in your face now, and you have no option. Okay, you don't have an option. This will continually get worse and worse and worse and worse, and eventually.
So, using people's fears about vaccines, and the ones that believe that it's going to make you vulnerable to 5G, or that Bill Gates is trying to destroy your DNA. Tying back into the white supremacist angle, there's neo-Nazis that have been fear-mongering about vaccines as a way to exterminate the white race and advance Jewish control.
They'll pull on a full lockdown.
But whether or not the people behind this are actually fascists, and I hope that as the court case unfolds, we'll find out more information about the people who organised this, and if we do, I'll be covering that here again. This fascinates me that this occurred here of all fucking places.
And that's something we can't have. Okay? Let's back on more.
Come on. He's taking questions from people on Zoom.
You can choose to come on to help out with common law. And guys, if you know good common law, if you've been schooled and educated in that, we need you. Right? Australia needs you. We need people to get on board with the common law people we have now, okay? And you can put that in the chat box and give.
So the quote-unquote common law people that we have now in Australia are sovereign citizen conspiracy theorists, and there's a few of them around. We'll be taking a look at some of them in a little bit.
Your name and email and a phone number, and we can link you up with the people who are doing common law. This is not just about being an AP officer. This is also about getting that done as well. We need common law lawyers. There's many lawyers that are out there. We need you guys. Right?
Any lawyer worth their fucking salt knows exactly how gosh darn bullshit this kind of thing is.
We need tech support. We need more admin girls. You have no idea the amount of people across Australia who have come on board with this. It's massive. Okay? So we need.
I hope that he is wrong. I hope that he's just lying to the people in this Zoom to try and make them confident, and that this isn't, in fact, a massive thing that they've managed to set up.
We need to have more people who put their hands up as well to sign on to do admin, right? To make the calls to the people who want to be AP officers, okay? Because you think about it, if we had 400 in every state, think about how many calls we've got to make a day, okay? My phone probably 300-400 calls I get on a daily basis. That's what it is, okay? And we
So, aspirational target of 400 of these operatives in every state. Now, we know that 470 badges were found that were dumped in a creek in Queensland, but that had been kind of ordered in from somewhere. At least that's the impression I get looking at the news articles.
We've got other things to do. Operationally, we have to set everything up perfectly. So to do that, I need more time to do that because I want to spend as much time as I can to make it perfect when we go together. So if you've got to be a bit OCD, you've got to be a bit OCD on it, and that's the way it is. Okay, we need good people to stand up to that as well. Okay, so yes, you can join in Justice Common Law. Okay, so how many hours would be requested on your day? Right. If you're a full-time AFP, obviously you can be doing anything between 8 and 10 hours a day.
Oh, and he's promising all of these people like high-paying jobs out the other side of this. Basically, help us do a coup, and we will make you officers of the new Australian Federal Police.
Right? It just depends. Most times, a straight 8-hour day, and it'll be rotational shifts when it goes all to policing. Once we've done what we've got to do. But for now, all you've got to do is look at signing on, do the Policing Act, learn common law, learn the basic self-defence and so forth and so on. Be ready for when we give you that direction to actually be called up to actually go effect your arrest warrants. Right? After that, and everything's done, then it will become that job. If you don't want to leave your day job, guys, you don't have to. If you want to sign on and then opt out, that's your choice. You don't have a problem with that. Okay, we don't have a problem with that. As long as you're ready to stand up and effect the arrest warrants and help dissolve the political parties in there that have done wrong, that's fine. We don't have a problem with that. Okay, it's important. Okay? Okay. Good question.
Come on.
The question is, when does this take place? When does it start? It's already begun, guys. Okay? The fact that you're in a meeting and the fact that we're doing this right now means it's already started. Okay? When are we going to overthrow the government? ASAP. If you want.
Here we are. When are we going to overthrow the government? So up until now, he's just talked about arresting a few people in Parliament, but this is direct admission that the goal of this is to overthrow the government.
Overthrow the government.
And even the things that he's already talked about and we've already looked at, would classify as treason and probably terrorism under Australian law. But overthrow of the government was their goal.
Calling it that. We're not overthrowing. As I've said this before, overthrowing is getting someone in your hip and tossing them on the ground. That's not overthrowing. It's got nothing to do with it. Right? This is arrest warrants. Okay? Lawful.
Oh, sorry. We're not overthrowing the government. These are lawful arrest warrants.
Arrest warrants on people. Okay? Who have done wrong by the criminal justice system, done wrong, and we...
Which fucking laws have they violated, mate? Which fucking laws?
We have to arrest them for that, right, under the criminal codes. So, the time frame for this to happen, right, is ASAP. When we get everyone on board ready to go and everyone's trained up, that's when it will happen. Right, operationally, you'll get told that prior to it actually happening. Right, that's something I won't talk about on a Zoom meeting, okay? We won't give you a date, because when we give you a date, we just gave them a date. There could be, in this chat room now, there could be 12 infiltrators. We don't know. You'll never know. Right? So I'm not about to...
He's got a basic awareness of operational security, but evidently not enough to not have the whole fucking lid blown off this thing.
This is the date we're going, that's what we're doing, this is what it is. Okay, we gave a tentative date, even on the sheets that were given to me originally. Right? That can be altered, or brought forward, brought back, whatever it needs to adjust to when we're ready to go in and make it effective. Okay, so I hope that answers your question.
So he's claiming that this wouldn't be a coup or the takeover of the Australian government. It would be. Like, this is quite clearly what they were planning, even if they're, coaching it in the language that no, this is legal, this is the right and proper thing to do.
Many roles. Okay. What roles can you do to support the mission? It's pretty simple. Right? You can be crowd, you can be in the crowd, you can be rented crowd if you want to, mate. You can be whatever. Okay? If you want to be rented crowd, if you want to help out logistically to bring people in there, if you want to, there's a mountain of things that you can do. If you want to help out with, talking to police officers, liaising back and forth, making phone calls, be a secretary, there's dozens and dozens of positions that you can actually help out with. Right? Because at the end of the day, this is it. This is about making sure that every solitary person is on board to help, because that makes this job easy. Okay? It makes the job really easy when everyone gets on board. Okay? Yes. Okay, so if you leave your email address, right, and your phone number, email address, and name in the chat box, right, what happens is we'll do a generic email out to everyone for when the website's up, the name of the website.
I really fucking hope that the so the website wasn't up at this stage, so it's not the one that I thought it may have been. I really hope that the police managed to get their hands on that email list of planned collaborators for this failed fucking coup.
Website, the domain, and everything. And those who are police officers will get a login to be able to go to the back part of it and see all the policing things that we had through there.
Hapto, yes, legal is defined by, who is in power and who passes and enforces the laws. But he's saying that all of their actions would be legal under the current set of laws, and that the only illegal and that the legal things going on around stuff like mask mandates are actually illegal acts that need to be punished.
Yes and no. Is there a couple of numbers for Gold Coast today? Yes and no. Depending on how many numbers are down there, we've got a fair bit of room in one room, and we've got a back room too that we can use. But there are other places that I've had my other officers coming down there, so my guys are doing technical training as well with me. They're coming down to help out as well, so we can do some.
So apparently some form of tactical training occurring IRL in the Gold Coast?
There, and some as well. I train up to 200 people in martial art rooms, segregating 30 people and 40 people at a time, and then rotate. So you can get around. It's not a problem. When you come down for the training, understand it'll be very, very regimental, right? Everyone lining up, everyone in lines, and everyone working together. Okay, that's virtually how it's set up. So, as I said, we're not there to laugh, play, and carry on. You're there to learn effective arresting, how to arrest someone properly, the arrest warrants, and also the self-defence properly. So if you're coming down to laugh, carry on, and so forth, I'll let you know, your knuckles are going to be sore for push-ups. Don't play. You're not there to play. Right? That's it. Okay, I'm sorry to be that bloke, but it's what it is. This is an absolute full ball game that we're playing, as people call it, and we have to be disciplined at what we do. Okay?
Again, I do wonder if if any of those training groups had have gotten ahead, because he mentioned like mixed martial arts groups, and there is a lot of the fascists in the MMA community, and some of our most prominent fascists do run MMA gyms.
Right. That's a good question. What happens when we dissolve the government, right? And then we do and make this mission effective? Then the rest of the world says, oh, we better come over and stop them. Well, that's why the Governor General is there. The Governor General then has power over the arms, right? If they're given that directive, they must defend. If a foreign body comes in to overthrow everything, because they will be going overthrow, we are dissolving the government. If they come in to do that, then our armies will be activated.
So they are dissolving the government is the goal.
Okay, and they must follow
was the goal.
Because that is a direct narrative or direction from the Governor General. Okay, just so everyone understands that.
The Governor General, who is a religious guy and a personal mate of Scott Morrison, yeah, I don't think he's going to go along with your bullshit plan.
The current Governor General, which is Sir David Hurley, right, will be taken from power completely.
Okay, so the Governor General, it sounds like he would be one of the people being removed, probably to be, in this hypothetical world where these people were competent enough to pull this off, they would have been replaced by one of their lackeys.
People at the top taken out of their positions, removed from their positions. The government itself, as far as all of the Labor, Liberals, Nationals and so forth, they'll all be dissolved, right? Which means
complete dissolving of the government. So yeah, this is an attempt at a coup or a plan.
The person in charge will be at that point the current Governor General, which is our true Governor General, which is Theresa Van Washington.
Our true Governor General? Hang on, Theresa Van who? I don't think I've heard of this person before. Let's jump back ever so slightly and get that name. Okay, who is SEO, who is Theresa Van... If you can type out their name in the chat, I will look them up. She's a mentally unwell woman. So it was... Is it Theresa Van Leishout? Here we are, Theresa Van Leishout, Governor General. Here we go. Having a look back through here, it looks like she's got a Twitter. We've got Australia's self-appointed Governor General. Used to be a teacher, now she's basically in on all of the conspiracy theories. So this would be her, I'm guessing. Theresa Van Leishout. Talking about arrest warrants with John Fu and Operation COVID, Shield War threats. So this looks like a... YouTube removed within 48 hours. Operation COVID Shield, political military threats towards 25 million Australians. Yeah, this woman sounds like she might well be in on it. Oh, cool, she's got sharing stuff up on BitChute. GG Theresa VL meetings, up on BitChute. This is a 20-minute video. We might have a look at that in a minute, because she's been linked directly into this stuff. And we've got the Transparency Network. Australia's self-appointed Governor-General plans to overthrow the government from July 9, 2021. Holy shit. This person seems like they are genuinely off their rocker. Okay, we're going to have a bit more of a look into Theresa van Lieshout, because that is... Ooh, that is astounding. The Madura Mail from September 2015, criminal charges, abusive rants. Theresa van Lieshout, criminal charges, abusive rants don't disqualify Canning candidate. The AEC, Australian Electoral Commission, cannot disqualify Theresa van Lieshout from running for a seat in federal parliament, although she is facing criminal charges and abusing the press on social media. The AEC's Handbook for Candidates says the Constitution disqualifies people from being elected to federal parliament if they are convicted and sentenced, or subject to be sentenced for any offence attracting a penalty of a year or more in prison under state or federal law. A person can still run for office if they are charged with such offences, and there is nothing in the handbook suggesting that abusing others on social media is grounds for disqualification. It is left to the public to judge the candidate's fitness for office. Ms. van Lieshout, Mundijong resident, Mundijong, is running as an independent for the federal seat of Canning in Perth's southeast. Another Perth connection, it would appear. In Perth southeast, after MHR Don Randall's defeat in June, with other candidates including the Liberals, blah, 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 blah. Do we have anything? On Monday, WA Today reported that Miss van Lieshout had since taken to Facebook to accuse the Mandurah Mail of being male dogs, idiots, malicious, nutcases, and dickheads. Quote, "You trash me, I'll trash you, you evil, cowardly, lying, slanderous, violent, pro-liberal, Labour government, fascist, Nazi, stealing, torturing, murdering dogs." Whoa, she sounds ranty. She sounds well ranty. Okay, yes, absolutely, Scion on Twitch. Lieshout does sound very accurate. So he's trying to frame this unhinged woman as the real Governor-General, which is a claim she appears to have made.
Just so everyone knows. Yes, different factions of the Defence Force, yes we have. Okay? And we have current people who let's say, know a lot of the SF Defence Force here as well. Okay?
So he's making the completely unverified claim that there are people in the Defence Force who are on board with this plan.
So, if we didn't have those sort of people on board, I go be straight up and tell you, I wouldn't play around with that, because it's not the type of person I am. If we had to do it with just the people, we'd do it with just the people. If we had the Defence Force on our side, we have the Defence Force on our side. Okay, so it's important to understand that the people...
So the chances of this conspiracy actually having roped in the Defence Force en masse is really fucking low. There may be a few kind of conspiracy-minded members of the ADF. This guy could have talked to and gotten on board with the ideas, which is, a scary proposition in of itself, but I highly doubt that the actual ADF is on board with any of this shit.
Who are coming into this at the moment have key players in those high positions in Special Forces and other people who are retired Special Forces, as well as Standard Army. These guys have had enough. Okay, to be honest with you, there's many groups that have come to me and talked to me and said that they were about to bear arms on the government, and I put the handbrake on some of these guys, because you have to. We can't.
Oh, such a champion, such a sterling champion of democracy and the rule of law.
Be seen as doing this as a terrorist act. Okay, that's why that handbrake got put on pretty quick, and they understand and are on board with the fact that this could be done also. Okay.
From our brief reading over some of the terrorist legislation in Australia, yeah, this probably would have constituted a terrorist act.
It's very important. We've also had conversations with First Nations people yesterday, and a lot of people won't understand on this meeting at the moment how much power those guys actually have, right? They've got a lot more power than what you think, right? So we're having good conversations with those because they're helping lawfully.
Unfortunately, First Nations peoples don't have particularly much power in Australia. I would like to see that change.
Dissolve that government as well. Okay, so that's something else that I'm just bringing it to the table, and that's
from SEO on Theresa Van Leishout, she also claimed in a video to be ordained by God as the saint of Australia. Yeah, wow. These are... Okay, I'm leaning towards these people being complete and utter wackadoodles. Which doesn't mean that they don't have the potential to be dangerous. I want to be very clear.
Okay, and face-to-face conversations with First Nations people as well. Okay, what is the legal structure this is operating under? Yeah, good question. Okay, so right now, what's the legal structure they're underneath at the moment? Okay, so let's look at the laws at the moment. The Policing Act says I can't pull a pattern on someone. I'm not allowed to. Okay? If they're unarmed and they're just doing something peaceful, I have to have suspicion of intent of a crime before I can use force on that person. Right? And if there's...
So he's trying to claim that he's asked been asked what legal grounds he is acting on and this operation is acting on, and he's instead started talking about what he perceives to be the illegal nature of the current enforcement of lockdowns, mask mandates, and general anti-COVID measures.
A weapon involved, then I can use force on that person, right? If the weapon is drawn, any force is necessary. Okay,
so hang on, was he saying that they need to be violent before he can use force? Because I don't think that's true.
I have to have suspicion of intent of a crime.
Suspicion of intent of a crime. So where there are mask mandates and movement restrictions around COVID, yeah, breaking those things is breaking the law. It is a criminal act, and the police can pull you up on it, and should pull you up on it.
Before I can use force on that person, right? And if there's a weapon involved, then I can use force on that person, right? If the weapon is drawn, any force is necessary. Okay. So what is the law?
And police use force plenty on non-violent criminals, like people with drugs on them and whatnot.
They're working under it, man. They're not working under anything. They don't care. So when you look at it, we've got police officers, just so you can understand this, we've got police officers who talk to us from Melbourne that don't have a bloody clue who those officers are because they've never worked with them, ever. They don't even understand the badges they've got on because they've never seen those badges before, or the uniforms. They don't know who they are. Right?
So he seems to be making the claim that there are new police officers that have been brought in that aren't legitimate police officers in Melbourne, which is extra fucking hilarious given that they were actively trying to set up an illegitimate police force to enact a coup upon Australia.
So there's what platform lawfully we're working under. We work under the Commonwealth Constitution. Okay? So the platform was set by Theresa Van Leishout when she actually declared herself the Official Governor General under God, the Bible, and using the 1900 papers of Queen Victoria.
So she claimed herself the official Governor General under the God, the Bible, and using the 1900 something of Queen Victoria?
So the platform was set by Theresa Van Leishout when she actually declared herself the Official Governor General under God, the Bible, and using the 1900 papers of Queen Victoria. Okay?
The 1900, I think that might have been edicts of Queen Victoria. I'm sorry, but this is not how any of that fucking works. Jesus Christ. But does that mean that I can just declare myself the Governor General and these people would think that I am a legitimate Governor General?
So Queen Victoria's patents is the original patents set up our Constitution in 1981. As such, we also did the right thing. We sent away Theresa sent a letter away to the Queen telling her, right, what Sir David Hurley has been doing, which is treasonous to the Australian people, as well as his signing papers are illegitimate. When you've got a stamp in the middle of those papers that say Queen Elizabeth II, the Queen of Australia, we don't have a Queen of Australia with us. We don't. And at the top of the page, it's got Elizabeth written on it, and it truly looks like a 12-year-old child. And I've said this many times on Zoom meetings, right? That document is illegitimate, and so is he, right?
Yeah, this is just more sovereign citizen delusion.
Her foundation and her papers and her patents there, right, are legitimate. And we've sent away to the Queen to give her the opportunity to turn around and appoint her and take out David Hurley as a People's Governor General of Australia.
Dear Queen Elizabeth, please unilaterally appoint me the Governor General so that I can rule this country as its rightful Governor General.
We have received nothing, which means the Queen has got that double-edged sword, which means now, if she doesn't say anything back, if she doesn't move to dissolve him.
I wonder how much, like, insane, rambling mail the British royal family receives. I mean, there's people who believe that, you know, the British royal family are lizard people, that they're, you know, part of the QAnon satanic pedophile cult. Their, like, junk inbox must be one hell of a read.
As a Governor General and replace him with Theresa, then as a Governor General, then she abdicates her position here in Australia, which means Queen Victoria's patents, right, now is legal, lawful and binding. Okay? So we work under Queen Victoria's original patents under the Constitution and also under the 1979 Policing Act, which coincides with the 1914 and 1996. Okay? So everyone understands these are the laws that we work under. And some people go, oh, well, that's the Policing Act. Yeah, it is. Australian Federal Policing Act. Now, under that, if they say, well, you can't do that, well, we can virtually say to them, well, why are you using it then? That means you can't use it. So,
because they're the legitimate Australian Federal Police. You're trying to set up a pretender organisation in order to have a fucking coup. Oh my god.
Is that correct?
I can't believe that this happened. This is literally insane. This might be the most batshit thing I've seen ever happen in Australian politics. I can't believe it's not getting any traction. Why the fuck aren't people talking about this? This is hilarious and disturbing and indicative of a deeper problem that we have to deal with, which is the increasing radicalization of our citizenry, the increasing descent into conspiratorial thinking in the face of both the international horrors of COVID and the inconvenience of having to be put into lockdown so that we don't have our fellow fucking citizens die en masse. Oh.
Is that correct? So you're saying your laws aren't right. So that's also the double-edged sword they've got. So we use the Constitution as well as that Policing Act because that way it makes it lawful and binding. Okay, so just to answer that question properly for everyone. Okay? Right. Any questions? Right. So guys, we do try to do everything we can by the book, T's crossed, I's dotted. Okay? One of the meetings, the physical meetings, I went down with a practice handgun so people could see, not because I wanted to say, oh, look at us, we've got a handgun and we want to incite violence, but to let people know that we're going to sign on as police officers, this is not a bloody game. It's not a...
So he was, it seems, planning to get enough handguns. I mean, he's talked about having a quarter of the people who went to perform this coup being armed with weapons. So whoever this chucklefuck is, or whoever he was working with, either secured or thought they could secure maybe about 100 illicit handguns, and then do training. How the fuck did they think that this wouldn't have been noticed? Because, you know, they're talking about, like, not just having training videos online to kind of teach people about common law and self-defense, but he's talking about having actual physical in-person training sessions. And they didn't think that they would be discovered and found out?
Okay.
I'm glad that it seems that, you know, this got slapped down before they actually managed to form a fucking militia, but...
There could be time, right, where your life could be threatened. And I'm not going to give you
Sion, completely agree. We are really fortunate at the end of the day that these people are in fact idiots. Then there is a chance that we might not be so lucky when, if smart people ever actually attempt something like this. But they would need a lot of people, they would need to be extremely secretive, and they would need to be very well coordinated. And it would be very hard to pull off. Loose lips sink ships, and people like talking.
Backwards. I'm going to tell you straight up. But your life's being threatened now. Okay? Your life is being threatened with taking a vaccine which will destroy your innate immune system. It has been absolutely categorically
There is no information to suggest that the vaccine destroys your immune system. None whatsoever.
talked about. And if you look at the Senate in the US at the moment, okay, they have now come out and spoken out and got the correct documents from the CDC. The CDC's records of those who actually died of COVID, when you look at the COVID, there's about 9,000 people in the States who died of COVID.
That is a massive fucking lie. That is a massive lie. Let's just have a quick look here at US deaths from COVID. Oh, we want to hold on to some of that stuff. Here we are. US COVID deaths. In the United States, to date, from COVID-19, there have been 614,000 deaths and 35.3 million cases. A lot of those people who've suffered from COVID but didn't die will be suffering the effects of long COVID. So this is potentially permanent dehabilitation and not disorder, disability from the effects of the virus. This includes things like lung scarring and a permanent reduction in lung capacity and shortness of breath, an increased chance of blood clotting. There appears in long COVID cases to be a permanent drop, what appears to be a permanent drop in intelligence. And I've also heard report of severe psychological effects from long COVID. And people world over are struggling to get long COVID recognized as the actual disability that it is, so they can get the support that they need. Temp account 131, thank you for following. If you are real, please let me know. Say something in the comments so I know that you're real and I don't know that I just blocked you for being a temp account. And Just Joshling, thank you very much for the follow as well. You sound like an actual person. Cool. Let's jump back to looking at this vid.
According to their official records. Okay? Now.
And we are almost at the end of this video, and then we will take a little bit more of this Theresa character who they wanted to install as the new Governor General.
What happened to the other 500,000? So, get on and have a look at the CDCs, get on and look at the states. They're now calling upon the police explain. Okay? Now, the CDC are also saying at the moment that the rest of those guys actually died after having the actual jab. Okay? Hundreds of thousands of...
Again, not true. This guy is just spreading fear and disinformation. That's all he's doing.
Women are now sterile after having that jab. Now,
again, not true. I've not seen any information evidencing that sterilization occurs after having the COVID-19 vaccine. This actually might be the first indication we've had that whoever's organizing this person who's speaking right now, might actually be a part of the far right or the neo-Nazi or neo-fascist movements. Part of their belief around COVID-19 is that it's a globalist Jewish plot in order to force people to get vaccinated, so that and that those vaccines will render people sterile, so that white genocide can occur and the Jews can take over the world. Yes, people actually believe this. Gotharella, thank you very much for banning that temp account. Account created 1 hour ago? No, so that doesn't sound real. Maeve of Swords, you feel it unlikely that he has strong numerical support from ADF members? No, he absolutely doesn't. But what's worrying is turning the right people from the ADF who can funnel weapons to them, as happened with right-wing militias in the US across the decades. That is a potential source that they could have used for handguns. Yes, Hyro, unfortunately, COVID won't render you sterile, so you will still need to get the snip if you want to be permanently sterile. I am very sorry to be the bearer of such bad news.
That's not enough for you guys or anyone in Australia to turn around and stand up for your children.
And I appreciate you wielding that band hammer there, Gotharella.
For your families, and also for your bloody selves. If that's not enough, let me know, and I'll go back to my family. I've got no problems in going back to my family and go hide in the bush somewhere with my family. Okay? Because
Hang on, I need to jump back. What led him to talking about going bush and hiding out with his family? What the fuck?
okay, hundreds of thousands of women are now sterile after having that jab. Now, if that's not enough for you guys or anyone in Australia to turn around and stand up for your children, for your families, and also for your bloody selves. If that's not enough, let me know, and I'll go back to my family. I've got no problems in going back to my family and go hide in the bush somewhere with my family.
If you guys don't believe me, then I'm not going to go through with the coup that I've promised you. I'm just going to go and hide in the bush, which is the Australian Federal Commissioner, the AFP Commissioner, wouldn't look, which I'm pretending to be, wouldn't look suspicious at all.
Okay, because at the end of the day, if I do that, and you do that, and we all do that, we've lost. We're going to lose all our freedoms, all our children's freedoms, all their rights. It's time to stand up. And as I said...
So we've talked on this channel before about positive and negative freedoms. A positive freedom is the freedom to do something, and a negative freedom is the freedom from something. Both are important when discussing and formulating how to run and maintain a free society. So in the COVID restrictions, we do lose temporarily some positive freedoms. The freedom to, freely move around and gather places, sometimes the freedom to not wear masks and all of that. But in doing so, we gain negative freedoms, which is freedom from unnecessary death of ourselves, our friends, and our family, from this very real plague that is sweeping through our communities. And we have seen, like, the anti-lockdown protesters keep going, oh, they want to keep us in a permanent state of lockdown, but they don't. We can see that they don't, because each time we get the spread under control, we open up again, and yeah, there's some restrictions on how many people can be in venues and whatnot, and that slowly loosens over time as the spread reduces further and further. But we've seen that this isn't a permanent state of affairs that the government is trying to maintain. Because the government, we live in a capitalist society, the government is there for both people and businesses. Personally, I think it should be there more for people than for businesses. But because, our society at the moment relies on businesses operating, the government has an incentive to get things back to normal, to get people being able to go out and gather at bars and do their shopping and sit down at restaurants and cafes and casinos and events. There is incentive for the government for this not to be a permanent thing. And we have proof from the government's action about easing and lifting COVID restrictions that they're not trying to use this to set up a permanent dictatorship where you can never leave your fucking house, which is what these people keep scaremongering about.
I don't need fence-sitters. So if you're a fence-sitter...
So, Gur, you've read that long COVID may actually result in sterility. That is a possibility, though if that is true and somebody, does want to be sterile, I would suggest finding other methods of doing that other than getting COVID, because even if you survive COVID, the other side effects really aren't worth the sterility.
All right? Don't sign on. I don't need you on there. I'm going to be straight up, straight cut. I need warriors to stand up, male and female. Okay? Australia called on men and women, young, strong and lean, as their men.
So I need warriors to stand up. This is inching close to fascist rhetoric. This whole, lauding and lionization of everyone must become a warrior, everyone a fighter. Even people in non-combat roles tend to get painted as such. Now again, we don't have direct evidence that whoever was behind this was a fascist, but I wouldn't be surprised to find links to our fascist communities if there is a proper investigation into this and if the results of that investigation get made public. which I deeply and truly hope that they do.
As they lead a mean, as they call it, to go fight wars in the past. Okay, we have to stand up to show a sign of unity, as well as show a sign that the law is the law. It doesn't change, and they're not above.
The law does change. That's why we pass new laws. The law isn't some immutable ancient thing that we chiseled out of stone. Laws shift over time.
And they will be arrested for that. Okay, so I'll end what I'm talking about right now with that. And if you are still thinking of becoming a police officer, because you've got straight up, straight cut now, the website will be open next week, all going well. And
so this was circulated, apparently initially started circulating 2 weeks ago. So if they were on schedule, that website may have gone up. Off stream, I'll attempt to do some research and some digging to see if I can find any indication that the website did go up. If it did, I would be very surprised if it is still up after someone who appears to have been a ringleader in this has been arrested.
You can leave your details, okay, in the chat box, your email address, your phone number, name, and if you can, what state you're in, okay? And if you don't mind, your age as well, because then we can contact you and give you exactly what you need, okay? So thanks everyone for coming on. I really appreciate your time.
I really hope that the police seized whatever registry that was. Well, that was a wild fucking ride. What do we think, chat? What are our opinions of this failed attempted coup? Well, planned coup. I don't know if we can say they got to the attempt stage, but they definitely had a game plan. Which in itself is worrying. So what is the Transparency Network? This video that's got this stuff from Theresa van Leishout. And what is the Transparency Network? What kind of videos do we have here? Oh, we've got Thomas Sewell, who is an Australian fascist who is currently in prison. He created the NSN, the National Socialist Network, which are just straight up neo-Nazis.
The ASIO boss decided that we are a hateful ideology and that we inspect weapons and salute Nazi flags and we are a threat to the nation.
I mean, they are a hateful ideology that I wouldn't be surprised if they are hoarding weapons. And we know that they run around saluting Nazi flags because they fucking post pictures of them doing exactly that.
Given the growth that we've seen in nationalist and racist violent extremism, we anticipate there.
So that was a quick flash of some graffiti there that says, Free Thomas Sewell. So this particular YouTube channel, I think, is very definitely an alt-right fascist
We
neo-Nazi
anticipate
channel.
there will be a terrorist attack in this country in the next 12 months, and it can come from either ideology.
He gets his kicks from my chips, orders from the CIA.
So the system still has Tyler Jovac in prison awaiting trial. So this is a post from Tom Sewell. Last Friday, he had his committal hearing. For those who don't know, Tyler is an 18-year-old lad who has been imprisoned and used as a scapegoat by the system to justify their disenfranchisement of the far right. Mate, you guys keep breaking the fucking law and getting yourselves thrown in prison. You only have yourselves to blame for this. He's facing some of the most severe charges you can get in this country for posting a meme about Dylan Roof. Dylan Roof was what did Dylan Roof do again? It's been a while. I think he was a shooter. So Dylan Roof is an American white supremacist, neo-Nazi and mass murderer, convicted for perpetrating the Charleston church shooting. Oh, Jesus, that fucking guy. So the Australian who went over and, killed a bunch of people in a mosque in New Zealand. Was that the Charleston shooting? Hang on. No, he was an American. That was a different one. God, these fucking neo-Nazis everywhere. Everywhere. So that was that was the one of the black church. Yeah, no, I remember that as well. Cool. So I just wanted to have a quick look at that video to get an idea of the tone of this channel. So this is a video they've put up. Theresa van Lieshout, Australia's self-appointed Governor-General, plans to overthrow the government. And this is the woman that the conspirators in the foiled coup plot wished to put in place as Governor-General.
Hi, detective. I want to play a game.
They'll be charged with treason, urging violence, advocating violence against the people, the 25 million people of Australia, or genocide. So they can be charged with all of that. They'll get imprisonment for life. Also, Chapter 8, they'll be charged with crimes against humanity.
So they've put this really sinister whispering echo in the back. Yeah, Hyro, sorry, which mass shooting is a very depressing question to have to ask. You ain't wrong there.
Because we're talking about 2 million dead Australians under these politicians and their parties. Liberal, Labor, Greens and Nationals. And I want them banned from the ballot.
So, this seems to be a post from her somewhere, listing out the, where the arrest power's going, bail not to be granted under any circumstances. So yeah, this woman is an extremist who has been calling for the same things that the people who just got busted were calling for. So I would be very surprised if they weren't in kind of direct cahoots and didn't have a direct working relationship.
And I want all their wealth confiscated as well. I want their wealth confiscated, and that wealth to be give 20% to the police. I want the police to have 20% for their great work.
So she's trying to bribe the police on side by giving them money for standing aside and letting her, or assisting her in arresting the Australian government. It seems to be the entire Australian government that she wants arrested over this.
And I'll praise the police across the country, the Victorian Police, New South Wales, and the federal police that I created, and the federal police...
The federal police that I created. Is this woman the ringleader? Like, is she behind all of this? Are these people acting on her fucking instructions? Because they were trying to create a new federal police, and they wanted to put her in power as the new Governor-General, which would probably mean installing this woman as a dictator, functionally. Holy fucking shit. How have the media not picked up on this information? Why are they not talking about this fucking woman?
Act 1979, and those great police officers, they'll do the great work under the leadership of Theresa van Lieshout. Under my political leadership as the Governor-General of Australia, and I will work with the police, I will support them, I will promote them, I will do everything, I will encourage them, and for the next every day...
Damn, this woman has got some serious fucking brainworms. What the shit? If the media talked about her, they would give her power. Potentially, there definitely was a plot. Like, even if the people plotting to, commit treason and have a coup were, completely fucking incompetent, which they were, there still should hopefully be, a larger police investigation and series of arrests into the ringleaders of this. And it seems like this woman may well be one of the ringleaders of what's just gone down.
This week, every day this month, for the next month, the next year, every year for the next 10 years. And me and the police will do great works in this nation, and the police are...
She is promising, fascist control. I will give power to the police. I will be the new Governor-General. Me and the police will do great works in this nation. We will depose the existing politicians. I will give 20% of the politicians' money to the police.
Victoria become the greatest police in the history of Australia.
And of course, this being a pro-fascist channel, they've gone yeah, let's put sick beats over this call for the destruction of Australian democracy. Yeah. Fucking fascists, man.
Not just that, under my political leadership as the Governor-General of Australia.
Bunch of cringe lords, the lot of them.
The Victorian Police will become the greatest police service in the history of the world.
Okay, going into her background. The Protectionist Party.
We are one, but we are many, and from all the
Canning by-election, arrest warrant for Theresa Van Lyshout after court no-show.
lands on earth we come, we share a dream.
Okay, let's have a quick look at the Australian Protectionist Party, see if there's any information about this. Here we are. The Australian Protectionist Party, AAP, is a minor Australian far-right anti-immigration party focusing on economic protectionism and white nationalism. So yeah, this woman is a white nationalist. I think, given that we have her on camera bragging about having set up her own AFP, and we have someone who was pretending to be the AFP Commissioner talking about setting up a new Australian Federal Police and saying that they would put her in power, and seems to be part of the Australian Protectionist Party. I think we can pretty safely infer that this could well be like part of a fascist attempt at a takeover of Australia. I am so glad that these people are as incompetent as they are. Jesus fucking Christ. Opposes refugees and asylum seekers and often participates in rallies, such as the one outside the Villawood Immigration Detention Centre. Since its formation, the party has been active in protesting against the presence of asylum seekers and Muslims, and has also organised several protests against Sharia law being implemented in Australia. Australia doesn't have Sharia law. The party was registered as a federal political party with the AEC on the 18th of January 2011 and deregistered in June 2015. They continue to have an active website and seek donations. Its current office holders are not disclosed, and its address is given as a PO box in Tasmania. Protectionist.net. Let's have a look at the Australian Protectionist Party website. Culture Wars. Yep, this is classic far-right dog whistling that they've got going on. The majority of Australians reject immigration madness. Morrison snubs Trump, recognises Biden, and disgraces himself yet again. So yeah, these people are absolute far-right wackadoodles. And she seems to be aligned with the neo-Nazis. This is... Fuck, I did not expect this rabbit hole to go this way this quickly. Hyro, it's good to see a woman getting a shot at being in charge for once. Yes, very much so. Terrastormer, this would be pretty funny if it wasn't so worrying. Yeah, it's simultaneously hilarious and terrifying. The only thing that makes it funny is the incompetence that they have displayed in trying to do this. White nationalists using a song which references the diversity of Australia with "From all the lands on earth we come" is very contradictory. Fascists are nothing if not contradictory.
Dream and sing with one voice.
And look, I would rag on her for not singing the Australian national anthem well, but let's be honest, it's not a great national anthem, and it is really hard to make it sound good.
I am, you are, we are Australian. Vote number 1.
Many years. I'm an experienced teacher, 17 years. I have a Master of Education specialising in leadership and management.
So this is a proof that even educated people can go off the fucking deep end. I don't know if she was always like this, or if this is something that happened to her at some stage, but, like, education does make you less likely to be right, like it makes you more likely to be progressive, but it's not a guarantee.
I've written 4 books.
Just like vaccines, it might inoculate you, but it doesn't make you immune.
Non-fiction literature. My experience as a teacher drives me into politics.
As the September 19 by-election approaches, Mandurah Mail has reported that despite Ms Van Lyshout listing her occupation as teacher on AEC nomination forms, her registration as a teacher was cancelled in April. So I'm guessing that as a teacher, she was getting as an individual, she was becoming increasingly obviously radical and radicalized. So whatever organization she was teaching for probably gave her the flick. But deregistration as a teacher, like, it takes more than just not working as a teacher to become deregistered, as far as I'm aware.
By order of the Governor-General of Australia, and that's me, from last Friday, the 29th of February, 26th of February, and this is my office. I want the police to come here and bust down this door because...
So, Greg Hunt, MP. No, Greg Hunt's office is mine. It's my office because I say it is. I sent a letter to the Queen.
we can't get in it. I want the police to do it. Bring your bats, bring your battens. I was a prison officer for a year. I know how to use a baton, but I want the...
This woman needs help. Like, she needs serious psychological help.
Police to come down, use your battens, and smash in this door.
Although, if it turns out that she was one of the ringleaders of this self-defeating coup attempt, then she should probably be charged to the full extent of the law, which, I mean, from the reading of our criminal code that we did earlier in the stream, it does appear that it would fit the definition of, planned treason, what they were looking at doing.
This is my office. I want to put my stuff in there. It's got to say Teresa Van Lieshout, Governor General. That's what I want. I want the police to bust down the door.
I'm not paying a cent of anything. Fees, fines. I'm not paying taxation anymore. You can go to hell.
Cool. So this woman does also appear to be a part of the sovereign citizen stuff. So this whole, declaring that taxation is illegal and that sovereign citizens, because they declare themselves sovereign, are not subject to taxation. So she does appear to be SovCit adjacent as well, which isn't surprising, seeing the kind of SovCity arguments. But what is weird and surprising is that her and the guy pretending to be the AFP commissioner, both kind of citing Australian law as their justifications for officially trying to perform a coup.
Hello.
So she's apparently filmed herself cutting off a tire locking device, which get used to kind of enforce parking violations.
Well, if I get hurt, it'll be the government's fault, won't it? You evil pigs. Why don't you fuck off and leave me alone? Yous are murderers.
I think we've seen it enough from this woman. We don't need to go through this neo-Nazis loving homage to the woman who is trying to declare herself Governor General and may have been linked with this fucking failed coup attempt. So this has been completely goddamn wild. I was expecting that we would go, hey, let's have a listen to this. Now, we don't really know, who this might be connected to or who this might be about or, who might be doing this. But we have seen some fairly solid indication that allows us to infer that this may well have been part of a far-right plot, part of an ethno-nationalist plot, quite potentially. They're using sovereign citizen-style language. They're using the people's fear and anger around the pandemic and the lockdown to, in this case, literally try and mobilize people into an illegal militia that would pretend to be Australian federal police officers, arrest members of our government, and attempt to put that frankly unhinged, hateful scumbag of a lady into rule over Australia as the Governor General. And the way that, the Governor General doesn't rule Australia, it never does, it never has. So it sounds like they'd be instituting her as a dictator with the title of Governor General. Holy fucking shitballs, what? How did we get here? The fuck? Okay. I did not expect that to be so crazy. I'm going to be following this case as things unfold. There hasn't been much reporting of it in the news, except for the few articles we looked at the beginning of this stream. I will be following all of this with bated goddamn breath. Hopefully, we will find more information.